The film opens with a scene of 4 astronauts collecting samples on Mars. Soon, though, they are warned from their headquarters that a massive dust storm is approaching. The group debates whether or not they should leave the planet and retreat to their orbiting ship, or wait the storm out on the surface. Most of the crew wants to stay, but the commander, Melissa Lewis, says they should leave.
Prep emergency departure.
As the storm progresses, it threatens to topple their shuttle, Mars Ascent Vehicle, or MAV. While the crew is evacuating, one of the crew, Mark Watney, is hit by some flying debris and his communication device is damaged. When the others can't get a hold of him, Lewis goes back into the storm to try to find him. After being unable to see him, she goes back to the shuttle so that she can save the rest of her team. Watney is presumed to be dead since his biomonitor was also damaged and they cannot reach him. With their shuttle in danger of toppling over, the crew takes off to meet the orbiting vessel, the Hermes. In light of these events, the president makes a statement announcing the end to the Ares 3 mission and the death of Watney. While his death is a sad consequence, he helped to bring about a successful mission. Back on Mars, Watney wakes up after the storm to a blaring low oxygen alarm, an abdominal injury, and no fellow crew. His only chance of survival on this harsh planet is to make it back to the habitat, informally known as the HAB, the crew was living in before. He struggles to make it back, but eventually he makes it. There, he performs surgery on himself to remove the rod from his abdomen and to seal his wound. Realizing that he is unable to communicate with NASA, Watney starts a video diary to help keep himself sane, and to be used as a log in case any future missions are able to recover his body. In the log, he makes it clear that he doesn't blame his crew for leaving, he would have presumed him dead too. Mark then realizes that the only way he will be able to return to Earth is to survive on Mars for the next 4 years while waiting for the Ares 4 crew to arrive. That group, though, is set to land 3,200 kilometers away from where he is currently located. So, not only does he need to survive for 4 years, he needs to travel a great distance. Now that Mark has a grand plan of survival, he has a much more pressing need: food. He takes a log of all the supplies he has at his disposal, and only has enough packaged food for about a year. After that time he will need to grow food to be able to survive. Luckily for him, he is a botanist. He begins to build a garden inside the HAB using the limited resources available to him. He takes Martian dirt and mixes it with the crew's bio-waste to create usable soil similar enough to what he is used to on Earth. He is able to make water by breaking down the compounds in the leftover rocket fuel and causing new chemical reactions. Then he finds and plants some potatoes the crew brought for their Thanksgiving dinner. After a few days, the plants begin to sprout. On Earth, Vincent Kapoor, the director of Mars missions, tries to get the director of NASA, Teddy Sanders, to return to Mars sooner than the Ares 4 mission to collect the samples and experiments that Ares 3 worked on. Sanders refuses, saying that public interest is too high, and that they would have to televise everything. He says he doesn't want to put Watney's body in the public eye, especially not knowing how gruesome of a state it might be in. Still, Kapoor pushes back, pointing out that Mark's body will never decompose on Mars, and so will remain in whatever state it's in forever. They could easily frame the new mission as primarily a recovery of his body, with the specimen as a bonus, as a way to make themselves look better to the public. Sanders still refuses. NASA employee Mindy Park is going over satellite images of the Ares 3 camp to determine the extent of the sandstorm. She notices that since the storm, equipment has continued to move.
Yes, it's an emergency.
Meaning that Watney, somehow, survived. Sanders makes an announcement to the public about his survival, but waits to tell Watney's crewmates who are still en route to Earth from Mars. He is afraid that telling them now will distract them from their mission at hand. This decision is met with strong objections, most notably by the Ares 3 flight director, Mitch Henderson. On Mars, Watney's next focus is figuring out how to get to the Ares 4 landing site. He plots a route out on the maps he has at the HAB, but still has to think about how to get to the site. There is a rover at the HAB, but it is only able to travel about 35 kilometers at a time. He calculates that it will take about 50 days to get to his destination. He gets to work updating and modifying the rover to be able to safely make the 3,200 kilometer journey. Though he manages to double the battery life, he has to turn the heating off to do so, which is a deadly thing to do in Mars' cold climate. His solution is to dig up some radioactive material and store it in the back of the rover, using the heat it emits to keep warm. NASA gives another press conference saying that they have been able to track Watney's movements and have determined what he is trying to do. They have dramatically expedited the process and plan to send Ares 4 in 9 months, rather than 4 years. Back on Mars, the potatoes are finally done growing and he successfully harvests 400 potatoes. He sets the large ones aside to eat later, and replants the small ones for his next round of crops. Once Mark gets the rover fixed up and ready for a long journey, he takes it on a shorter mission to test it out, and to retrieve the Pathfinder probe. The Pathfinder is an unmanned craft that landed on Mars in 1997 to perform various tests on the atmosphere and ground. However, NASA lost communications with it later that year. It is the closest piece of equipment on Mars to Watney, and he is hopeful that he will be able to fix it and communicate with Earth. NASA knows that he is alive, but he has no way to know that fact, and they have no way to know if he is alive and well, or just barely making it. He gets the Pathfinder motor running. And, with the camera, he is finally able to communicate with NASA. From Earth, they have been able to track his movements via satellite images and were able to figure out that Watney was going for the Pathfinder. They got in order what they needed to on their end to be able to receive messages and worked out a way to send them back. Using the camera on the Pathfinder, Watney is able to write messages out and send photos to NASA. The only thing they can really do from Earth is move the camera around. So Watney sets up a communication system using hexadecimals so that he is able to ask more than just yes or no questions. Eventually, NASA is able to send instructions on how to link the rover with the Pathfinder. This lets them send text back to Mark, and Vincent tells him of their plan to rescue him. He then asks about his crew and how they reacted to finding out he is alive. Mark is furious when he learns NASA has kept this from them, and the Earth-based team realizes that they have little choice in the matter now and send the Hermes a message about Watney's survival.
Mark Watney's still alive.
Back on Mars, the airlock entrance on the HAB blows out. This exposes the entire building to the Martian environment, kills all of Watney's potato plants, and destroys the environment he created for the garden. Mark is injured in the blast, but is fine for the most part. His helmet does get cracked by flying debris, but he quickly fixes the crack with duct tape. He informs NASA about this new setback and they realize that they will need to expedite the mission even further. As a moral boost for everyone, Mark is allowed to contact his team on board the Hermes. Rather than speed the Ares 4 mission up even more, NASA considers how to get supplies to Watney as soon as possible. The director for Mars missions, Vincent Kapoor, and the director of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Bruce Ng, prepare a probe to send off. The probe is filled with enough food and supplies to last until the Ares 4 arrives. Now that the need for food is much greater, Sanders orders that the usual safety inspections be skipped in order to save time. As the Atlas V rocket takes off, it is clear that the inspection should have been done, as the rocket explodes and destroys all of the supplies on board. With the amount of time it takes to plan, build, and test a rocket, it seems that there will be no chance to resupply Watney. It soon comes to light that the Chinese National Space Administration has been working on a booster rocket, the Taiyang Shen, or Sun God, in secret. After the explosion of the previous rocket, China allows NASA to use this rocket to send supplies to Watney. Before the rocket is launched, Jet Propulsion Laboratory Astrodynamics, Rich Purnell, thinks of a better plan. He proposed to have the Taiyang Shen meet with and transfer the supplies to the Hermes in space.
Astrodynamics.
The Hermes would then use Earth's gravitational pull to slingshot itself back to Mars. This would get them there 2 years before the Ares 4. Sanders refuses to allow this, as he sees it as far too risky a maneuver and doesn't want to put the Hermes crew at risk. Henderson, the Ares 3 flight director, sends this plan to the Hermes crew anyway to get their opinions on the matter, since it is their lives and their crew. They unanimously vote to go through with the plan, despite their superiors saying no and the extra 500 days this adds to the mission. Once it is decided, they all call home to their loved ones to tell them they will be gone longer than originally planned, but that it is the right thing to do. The Hermes crew disable the remote control so that NASA cannot change their route from the ground, and change their course to catch Earth's gravitational field instead of land. Publicly, Sanders is forced to support them, but privately demands that Henderson resign from his position after the Ares 3 mission is complete. After 7 months, Watney gathers his supplies and begins his 90-sol journey to Schiaparelli, and the pre-positioned landing site for the Ares 4. That is the location another mob that's just like the one that the crew initially left Mars in. He plans to use it to reach the Hermes when it gets close enough. To do that, though, he needs to make it significantly lighter than it currently is. He gets the interior of the shuttle, reducing it from being capable of transporting 6 people, to just 1. NASA also tells him to remove the front and sides of the ship and to replace them with tarps. The Hermes crew warn him that he may pass out from the force of the launch.
About 2 minutes, Watney. How you doing down there?
I'm good.
But reassure him that it will work out. Unfortunately, the tarps fly off the shuttle almost immediately and Watney passes out. Because he's unconscious, he isn't able to tell his crew that he is alright. The shuttle is too far from the Hermes, and there is nothing Mark can do since he removed the control panel while shedding weight. Thinking quickly, Commander Lewis uses an explosive to breach an airlock on the Hermes that slows them down, but Watney's speed is still at too high a level. The Hermes crew uses a manned maneuvering unit that is tethered to the ship to try to reach Watney, but he is too far away. Improvising, Watney punctures his pressurized suit and uses the escaping air to launch himself to his commander. Finally, after 543 souls, he is no longer alone. After a heartfelt reunion on board the Hermes, the film jumps ahead 5 years to the year 2040. Watney has, appropriately, become a survival instructor for astronaut candidates. Then, as the Ares 5 is about to launch, we get to see where everyone involved in Watney's rescue are in their current lives.